Okay. Hi, Matt. How are you?
Hey, doing well. How are you doing?
Doing fine. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
So, you're the founder of Movement Property Group and Keller Williams. Is this a Keller Williams franchise?
Keller Williams, each office of Keller Williams is actually independently owned, but it's part of the overall Keller Williams international brand. Yes.
It's funny. I just last week had CEO of another Keller Williams franchise on the show. This must be,
Interesting.
yeah, this must be Keller Williams month.
It's Keller Williams month. I'm all right with that.
How long have you been doing this?
I have been in real estate for 8 years now.
Okay.
Yep, but I've been the company owner. We started as Make Nashville Your Home about 4 years ago and then rebranded to Movement Property Group 2 years ago.
What makes your property group unique to just another run-of-the-mill real estate agency?
It's a great question. Um, I think that the thing that I bring that is a little bit different, which plays really well in Nashville, my current market, is I'm actually a professional musician as well, and many of the members on my team are actual musicians as well. So we have a lot of creativity, brand awareness. We're all a little bit. Um, we probably think a little bit differently than the typical real estate agent, which in Music City works really, really well and plays really well. And we have a lot of demographic that we pull in as clientele that I think other real estate companies might miss. But we get to play in really well because it's our space and it's what we are used to and what we've done our whole lives as well. I've often said that I like to profile musicians to bring onto my team because if you're a musician who's made it full time at a professional level in Nashville, Tennessee, you know how to hustle, you know how to pound the pavement, you know how to network with the best of them, and you know how to make no money, which is really great when you're starting out in real estate. So it ends up being kind of our one of my profiles that I look for when I hire. So we're a team of musicians, a team of creatives, which is a little bit of a different brand than your typical real estate team.
Well, I'm happy to hear you're a musician. I didn't know if you knew that about me, but I'm also a professional musician.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. What
Um,
do you do?
well, sort of semi-retired now,
Okay.
but now I'm running a recording studio, amongst other things, and just helping other people out. But my music's out there online, and you're right about being a musician in the sense that it's amazing how famous one can be in this industry and make absolutely no money.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I know people that have done real estate where, you don't make anything unless you make the sale. So I get
Well, the
it.
neat thing about real estate is there's a ramp up period to it. So you almost have to jump off the cliff, dive in, and then you've probably got 6 to 8 months before you're converting a lead into a potential sale. And even once you get under contract, you're another 30 days from closing. So there's just a good ramp up time before you end up getting a paycheck. And so a lot of folks aren't used to that. Musicians tend to be very used to that. So it's a good person for me to profile.
So how many people do you have working at your company?
So currently I have, let's see, 17 people on my team, and not all of them are musicians, but many of them are. So I've got 17 people on my team, including a full-time salaried staff member, a team coach, and then I brought two partners on last year, ultimately so I can leverage my time and still be pretty involved in music as well. So I've got two partners on my team.
So the people that are on your team that are musicians, did you guys form a band?
No, we didn't actually. We all had different tracks in the music industry. Many of us have lots of mutual connections, and we've shared the stage perhaps at times. But no, we never all actually played together. So,
Well, the music scene in Nashville is really hot. I mean, that's one of the
oh, for sure, this is
hot.
Music City. This is where
Yeah,
everything in the country filters through.
right.
So, yeah.
So are you a country music artist or rock and roll or what do you play?
I'm not. I'm a pianist actually. I'm a pianist and composer. I grew up classical. I started playing professionally when I was 9, and it's just kind of been the only thing I've ever really known. But it was all in the classical world. I have a little bit of jazz experience as well through college, and then I consider myself a contemporary composer at this point.
Okay, so who would you write for?
Mostly myself. I'm actually a solo artist. I travel and perform myself. I have, and then I've played with a lot of artists in the industry, and I've traveled with several folks in the industry. I've band led for a couple national conference tours. So I've kind of been in a lot of different venues, but the art and music that I brings me life is my own. So right now I've got a piano cello album that's out. It's currently being orchestrated, and I'm hoping to debut it with a symphony at some point.
Oh, that's great. So you're a classical music composer.
Back,
Yeah.
yeah, at the base level, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. All right.
Yep.
Well, I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, although I do play piano as my primary instrument.
I love that.
But I'm on the Elton John, Billy Joel, probably that side.
I just bought tickets to a Billy Joel concert here in Nashville. Billy Joel is one of
Ah,
my favorites. Okay, can I tell you a story? Do you have time for a story?
absolutely.
All right. So one of my first shows when I moved to Nashville, I've been in Nashville for about 15 years. I started touring and kind of playing the Nashville circuits about a year and a half after I got here. There's a very famous venue in Nashville called Exit Inn, and it's a rock venue. But it's very famous. Everyone who is worth their salt has played there. And it's more on the rock side of the world, so rock, pop, contemporary parts of the world. But I played this concert there, and it was put on by an organization. They bring a lot of different people in, so there are several different groups. None of us were connected to each other on the ticket that night. But I ended up headlining the concert because I had the most ticket sales. So nothing special. I just ended up selling the most tickets that night. But the band that played right before me was a screamo punk band, and nothing against that, but it's screamo punk, and they broke three guitars in their set, and it was just a loud concert, and my demographic was the primary demographic in the room. Obviously, screamo punk probably isn't their usual go-to, and so I got up on stage and knew I needed to make a really hard shift, and so I planned on just my usual singer-songwriter stuff, which is more pop. But I decided to start with a classical piece instead. So I played a classical piece to start the set to kind of just change the environment. Got off the stage that night. The manager of the Exit Inn comes up and talks to me. And he says, "Hey, I think you are the first person to play classical music at the Exit Inn since Billy Joel." And I said, "I will take that." And so he had me put my sticker back, my Billy Joel sticker, in the back of the room. And ever since then, I felt a little bit of a kindred connection to Billy Joel. But I love Billy Joel and would aspire to be something like him as my career continues. So,
Well, that's a great story.
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, he has been probably one of my favorites. Him and Elton John were my two.
Amazing.
And I'll tell you a quick story. As music is, we're all sort of interconnected, whether we know each other or not.
Sure.
The guy who produced my 4 main tracks that I've got out on Spotify and everything like that was Elton John's former producer way back in the late 60s, early 70s.
All right. Amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's funny how that all connects. I sent one of my tracks to him, and he said, "Oh yeah." And then once we got talking, he I think it was just the Elton John connection, because my style of piano playing is so much like Elton that
Sure.
he picked up on it right away, I think.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Hold that in your back pocket forever. That's fantastic. That's awesome.
Well, what's amazing to me is talking to him with some of these old early albums of Elton's that I absolutely wore out on vinyl.
Yep.
I had to buy new copies every few months because I just play them so much. I mean, he was there when those albums were being made. So that's always amazing for me. Well, I think we digressed a little bit, but let's
maybe a touch.
We'll get back on track here. Okay, so you've also started a program called LiftUP. And let's see, 10% of the team's profits go to LiftUP Fund, which provides mortgage and rent relief to struggling families and individuals. I think that's great. I think especially now with inflation running crazy as it is how is the real estate market in the Tennessee area? Is it inflated or is it average on the U.S. scale?
Yeah. It's above average on the U.S. scale. I mean, as far as like, we're insulated in Nashville, just because we have different kind of an industry operation that happens in Nashville. Also, last year, the fastest appreciating zip code in the country was a Nashville zip code. And so the market here has been incredibly hot. People around the country will say our market's hot, but then I'll start talking statistics and everyone's like, oh my gosh, nothing like that. We just have had an unbelievable amount of growth. Nashville's kind of moved from a C-level metropolis to an A-level metropolis, meaning our contemporaries, our comparables are going to be New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco. And so we have completely entered into a new echelon in how our city operates, and the growth is coming with that. So we have Oracle that just took a really rooted position in a brand new multi-billion-dollar development downtown. We've got Amazon that is bringing a new hub downtown. We've got just an amazing amount of companies relocating. We've got Hollywood studios relocating because we passed a film tax law. And so we've got $100 million plus studios from Hollywood relocating. We've just got an amazing amount of growth. And with that comes a little bit more insulation. Our prices are appreciating. Things are moving. For my stat earlier this year was for every home on the market, there were 139 people that needed that home. I think we're probably still pretty close to that. Obviously, currently, with rates being higher and there's kind of a general panic amongst buyers and other people in the market, we've slowed a little bit. We still are selling, we're still moving, we're still appreciating, the market's still going up. We're not selling, I don't have, earlier this year on one of my properties, I had over 100 offers in an hour of being on the market.
Wow.
We're not having that type of situation right now, but we are still moving. And I think I tend to be pretty bullish in this market. I think that what's happening is really a balancing, a little bit of a correction, and a series of unfortunate events that all kind of played together. But I think as things start to come back to normal and people realize the sky's not falling, it's not doom and gloom, I think especially in Nashville, we're going to see things get back to moving well. And I think you'll probably see that in the rest of the country by and large too, as a little bit more of a free-flowing market. But in Nashville, for sure, I just think that the basic principle of supply and demand will play, and there just aren't enough houses for people. So the market's going to continue to go.
What's the median home price in Nashville now?
Median home price in Davidson County is going to be probably about $950. That stat's probably a little bit outdated, but about $950. Outside of Davidson and Williamson County, you're going to look at a median home price of about $1 to $1.1, and then outside of that, your median home price goes down to about $500, $450, $500. That being said, Yahoo Finance and Forbes put out an article earlier this year estimating that by the year 2028, so 6 years from now, that the average price point in Clarksville and Cookeville, which are about an hour outside of Nashville, will be 1.2 million because of Nashville's growth. That would put Nashville, the average price point in Nashville, somewhere in the 2.2 to 2.5 range. So
wow,
I have a feeling we're slated for just extraordinary growth over the next decade.
You are in the sort of Los Angeles league almost, yeah?
Absolutely, and we will be. And I think we will be very much on par with LA and New York. The thing that we aren't yet on par with that is I had a guy that moved here from New York. He sold his condo there for 1.2, and it was a 1-bedroom condo, and he bought a 5,000 square foot estate on 7 acres for that same price here. So you can get more for your money in Nashville still. We just have a lot more of those type of properties to offer. And then our property taxes. His property taxes in New York were somewhere in the $85,000 a year range, and our property taxes here from the same property were about $8,500 a year. So drastically less in property taxes. So affordability is a lot more here, and we don't have state income tax. So there's that piece of the puzzle too. So I think we will get very competitive on pure house prices with New York and LA. I just think you'll probably end up getting a little bit more for your money here, and the affordability of the rest of the picture is still better here. At least for the moment.
Well, it always amazes me when I hear figures like $85,000 a year in property tax. I mean, most people don't even make that much money in a year,
sure.
let alone have that to pay tax. That's just insane.
Insane.
Yeah.
But not unheard of and really common in a lot of these places. And so some of the people that have been Nashville natives for a long time come to me and they're just like, when is it ever going to stop? How are people possibly affording the prices in Nashville right now? Because they're seeing what you could have bought for $50,000 5 years ago is selling for $500,000, $600,000 now. They're seeing that kind of growth. And what I continually have to explain is we still feel really affordable to the folks coming into town from New York and LA and Chicago and these bigger metropolises. So it's that move from a C-level metropolis to an A-level metropolis, and it's definitely really shaking the landscape. But my clients that are coming from LA and New York still look at Nashville prices and are like, oh my gosh, it's so cheap to live here, for better or for worse. But that's the reality. So.
Well, you guys must be busy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's been insane. And that's an understatement.
Okay. Well, Matt, we do got to wind this down. We are just out of time. Do you
Sure.
have a website that you want to give out?
Yeah. I mean, if you just go to www.movementpropertygroup.com, pretty straightforward, but all my info's there. All of our company's kind of sales are there, but we service all of Middle Tennessee and any price bracket, and we tend to be ahead of the market on coming soons, and we work a lot with developers and builders, so all that information is there. And obviously, if anyone's ever moving to Nashville, man, we're your folks. We'd love to help.
All right, great. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. Nice meeting you, and nice meeting a fellow
Likewise.
musician, piano player.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Best of luck.
Thank you.